Hello, thanks for tuning in again. Yes, continuing, streaming about the mind, about the human, the human condition. What is this ghostly feeling within us? How can we come to terms with it? How can we give it agency? How can we know it? I want to address today Immanuel Kant, a little bit about Immanuel Kant, because I don't really talk, I allude to certain philosophers, but I don't really talk much about the philosophers because like Kant, if you will, was my Kung Fu master, okay? And I went to Kant for 10,000 hours to learn his Kung Fu so I could understand his Kung Fu in my mind, okay? Was it in my mind too? Could I square up my square with his square, okay? Could I square up my square to his circle and so on and find completeness with his work within, okay? So I internalized his work and I moved forward, okay, on the back of his Kung Fu, if you will, the Kung Fu of the mind. But why Kant? Why Kant? Well, the best way to explain Kant, I'm going to explain him by talking about a cube. Okay, a cube, you all understand what a cube is. Like, there's no one way to explain Kant, and to truly understand him, you'll have to go into hundreds and hundreds of hours of abstraction. I mean, I always talk in abstraction. If you've been listening to my work on stripping the mind right back, I use a lot of abstraction, and I'll explain why. Okay, so Kant was, just hundreds of hours of heavy abstraction, okay? You kind of have to be a nerd to go in after it. I'm a cosmic nerd. I like being a nerd. Kant was a bloody cosmic nerd. But anyway, yeah, so to go into his work. So yeah, let me explain it by talking about a cube. I'm an alien, okay? Actually, I am an alien. We don't share the same paradigm. But anyway, I'm an alien for all intents and purposes. And I land on your planet and I ask you to explain a cube to me. What is a cube? But you cannot draw it for me, okay? You cannot draw it out in the air. You cannot draw it on paper. You cannot show me a picture of a cube. You have to explain it to me through verbal communication. How would you go about explaining the cube to an alien who had never seen or heard about a cube? Well, you could close your eyes and start to intuit the cube, okay? So you could see that it has 12 lines, 12 straight lines, you could say to the alien. Something has 12 straight lines and it has 8 interlocking points that hold the 12 lines together. You could relate to the alien. So you're starting to think with the cube now. You're starting to think with this image inside your head. So you understand that it has, all the lines are the same length, okay? They all meet at 8 interlocking positions, fixed positions. There is length, breadth and width, so there's volume to the cube, therefore dimension, three-dimensional dimension and so on. So through these verbal signifiers, you're starting to build a picture in the alien of what a cube is, okay? So the alien has to move its intuitional field around all of these positions to try and understand within, to try and internalize what this picture is that you are trying to relay, okay? So yes, so on that note, in relation to the mind, actually one point first, the language itself is not the cube. Okay, the language itself is not the cube. That's very important that you understand that. Like when I'm talking about a cube and using words like length, breadth, width, interlocking points, straight lines, vertical lines, horizontal lines, and so on, those are, signifiers, verbal signifiers, and the signifiers themselves are not the cube. The cube is the end product, the end product we are looking for. So the cube and the signifiers are not the same thing. Obviously, the signifiers are actually the architecture, they're the scaffolding, okay? They give the cube agency, they give it internal agency. It's why we can build a cube within, because we have the understanding of time, space, length, breadth, width, dimension, fixed position, interlocking, and so on, and straight line. That's why we can construct the idea of a shape such as a cube within us. So yes, the language and the cube are not the same thing. So on that note, Immanuel Kant was looking for the mind, this ghostly feeling within us, okay? And you can give agency to the body. You break it down, it has lungs and hearts and kidneys and blood cells, white cells, red cells. You break it down further, it has molecules, and cells and atoms and so on. So we're always breaking down the body because it's in front of us, it's tangible. We can get into it, we can get into its gut and go in after it and analyze it and dissect it and so on. But how do you go into a ghostly thing like the mind? So imagine the mind itself is a cube. Okay, so Kant was trying to understand the mind and he was trying to give it language. Okay, so if it was a cube, then Kant was effectively giving it the language of fixed position, interlocking, straight line, volume, horizontal, vertical lines, so and so on, 12 lines, 8 positions. Okay, he would have been using the language that we would have used to relay the cube to an alien. Okay, so Kant is trying to use, relay the mind, and obviously he's got to use much more complex language than just relaying a cube, but it's along the same track that he runs, okay, because he was trying to understand the mind, that the mind can understand length, breadth, width, vertical, horizontal, fixed position, interlocking. These are a priori modes of the mind, okay? So anyway, so the point was he was using abstract to relay his cube. And in much the same way, that's what I'm about. You imagine the mind as a cube, and I'm trying to relay the mind to you. I'm trying to relay the cube to you. I'm trying to tell you that your mind is a cube, okay? But you've never seen a cube before, and I can't draw it for you, okay? I'm not able to draw. I can't show you a photograph of it because I cannot draw the ghostly mind, and I cannot show you a picture of the ghostly mind, this ethereal feeling within, this mystical feeling within, this huge feeling of logos and will and drive within us, okay? This intuitional field of spirit and self and connectivity and so on, this transcendental spectrum of thought that is huge in all of us. I can't draw it for you, so I have to relay it through verbal signifiers, just the same way that we would try and relay the cube to an alien, okay? But like I said, it's much more, I can't just say straight line, fixed position, okay? I have to use all the abstract concepts to give the mind itself agency, and that's why I use the abstract notions such as we all evaluate, okay? We all understand combinations and configurations. We're all looking for composure in the configuration of things. We all evaluate and navigate and categorize things. We all optimize and unify things, you see? So what I'm doing is I'm talking about, in a complex way, I'm talking about a more complex cube. Okay, I'm trying to relay a more complex cube. I'm trying to say to you the mind is, as an analogy, a cube, okay, but it's a much more dimensionally complex cube, if you will, hence all the use of this abstract knowledge. Anyway, so my overall point being is, obviously you can see why I love Kant now and why I built on Immanuel Kant. My overall point is, like, to go back to the fact that all the language I use, like I said, the language to explain the cube is not the cube itself. The cube is the finished product. The cube is the shape, okay? The cube is a three-dimensional shape. Well, the mind has much more dimensions to it, so we'll just say it's 9 dimensions, okay? Because I can only find 9 dimensions at the moment. I think I can find 9 dimensions, but anyway, so it's a 9-dimensional cube, but the language I'm relaying, evaluation, these are just things that the mind utilizes, modes, and they give the mind agency, okay? But forget the modes, forget the words, they're just signifiers, okay? Remember this, they're just signifiers to show you the mind itself. Like I said, we use signifiers to show the cube, and then we see the cube itself. So all my abstract and all of Kant's abstract was to just build, they were all signifiers, trying to signify, coordinate, signify, navigate, coordinate your mind into place so you can hold yourself and seat yourself into the position of the mind itself as a cube in this case. Anyway, I hope that makes some kind of sense. That's why I love Kant, and Kant is a beautiful human being. He stepped on our planet. He deserves worldwide recognition. He was 10,000 times Einstein, as far as I'm concerned. And yes, so I will leave it on that note. Peace and love and logic and Immanuel Kant.